You're muted, Brian. All right, Brian, my mic's still muted. Maybe now? How's that? Can't hear you. Everybody else hear me all right? Okay, I see. Yes, I'm
Loud and
safe.
clear, Dale.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Not sure. Okay, Brian is going to reconnect. We'll give him just a second, find out what's going on there.
Okay, Dale, can you hear me now?
Yep, now you're loud and clear. Good.
All right. Don't know what happened there, but
Yeah,
I'm not gonna touch the mute button.
even when it said unmuted, it didn't come through, so something not connected quite right. All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We'll start with introductions. Dale Stein, Chair. Scott?
All right, NYACD voting rep.
Dave?
Dave Brass, voting member, Deb Vice Chair.
Darren Hickling, voting member.
Erica, you on today?
I'm here. Erica Goodman, voting member.
Thank you, everyone. Over to Brian.
Brian Steinmiller, Assistant Director for the State Soil and Water Committee. And I'll just do a quick roll call of our advisory members. Is anybody on from Ag and Markets? Okay. How about DEC?
Sarah Lateslas.
This is Julie Berlinski.
All right, thank you. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Julie. How about CDEA?
Dustin Lewis is here, President.
Hello, Dustin. All right. How about Department of Health?
Paul
Morgan
Caspar.
Pardo.
All right. Hello, Paul. Hello, Morgan.
Hello.
How about Department of State?
Yep, this is Stephanie Roy-Tubby, Chair, and I believe Kate will be joining us in a few minutes. She had another meeting to wrap up.
Okay. How about Cornell University?
Hey there, this is Brian Rahm from CALS.
Morning.
Hey, Brian. How are you? All right. How about CCE? Cornell Cooperative Extension? Beth, you there? Okay. Steve Shaw sends his regrets from ESF, not able to join us today. NRCS.
Paula Bagley's on.
Good morning, Paula. Thanks for joining.
Good morning.
Okay. And we'll go through state committee staff. Victor?
Good morning, Victor Giacomo, State Committee Regional Field Staff for Western New York.
Good morning, Victor. PJ?
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is PJ, Region 2 Associate Environmental Analyst.
Okay. How about Scott? Okay. Ryan?
Good morning. This is Ryan Cunningham, Regional Coordinator for the North Country.
Good morning, Ryan. How about Ron?
Good morning, Ron Bush, CNMP Specialist.
Good morning, Ron. Brendan?
Good morning, Brendan Jordan, CNMP Specialist.
Good morning, Brendan. Greg?
Morning, all. Greg Albrecht, AIM-based Program Coordinator.
Good morning, Greg. Ben?
Good morning. Ben Luskin, Regional Coordinator for Region 5.
Morning, Ben. You're coming in loud and clear. Jennifer.
Good morning, Jennifer Clifford, CRF Program Manager.
Morning, Jennifer. Bethany.
Good morning, everyone. This is Bethany Bisdu, the Ag Non-Point Source Program Manager with the State Committee.
Good morning. Is Tim on the line? Okay, I believe Tim is out today. Is Lauren on? Okay, am I missing anybody from advisory members or staff?
Lisa Vanstrom here. I'm with Senator George Borrello's office from the 57th Senate District.
Lisa, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
I was here last month, but I don't know what the protocol was, so I'm sorry for being quiet.
Oh, no worries at all. We since we have so many people joining, we generally go through our advisory members and staff, voting members, and then welcome to everyone else joining us here today. So in water districts, members of the public, and other partners. So welcome everybody. Dale, back to you.
Thanks, Brian. Welcome, everyone, especially our guests today. We'll move on to approval and review of minutes. Are there any from last month's meeting? Are there any additions or corrections, anyone? I get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second, please.
Sorry, we're muted. Sorry about that. We have first from motion from Darren Hickling, second from Scott Ryan.
Thank you. Move to voting.
Yep.
Scott?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Darren?
Yep.
Approved. Thank you. Correspondence and budget update, Brian?
Sure, I don't have any official correspondence to share with the group today. I do have some good news, though, regarding budget and funding. In regards to previously approved funds from the legislature, we do have now spending approval for numerous programs that have been waiting for said approval for quite some time. So the Division of Budget approved our CRF Round 6, which again is combined funding for 2 fiscal years. They've approved our Ag Non-Point Source Round 28. They've approved our AIM-based Round 17, which is something we've been actively discussing and working on over the last couple of months. So we're really happy to see that, as that is scheduled for release here shortly. They've also approved a number of other projects and contracts that we have been working on, including the Cornell Soil Health Contract, as well as the Long Island Nitrogen Action Plan. I'm sorry, that one is not yet approved, but it's pending and should be imminent. So all this good news, finally able to move forward with some programs and get some contracts executed that have been held for quite some time. So I did want to bring that up to the committee so you're all aware of that. Also, we are officially out of the blackout. We did receive our first monthly appropriation from the Division of Budget for 2 months worth for May and June, and then they quickly asked us for our needs for July. So that encompasses all of our EPF programming, Ag Non-Point, CRF, EDM, AIM-based, and farmland protection. So we are again making payments, and there shouldn't be any significant delays in that we are receiving monthly what we will need to make our payments. Now there are a few large farmland protection payments that are going out, but we are doing okay in being able to balance our books. So good news.
Good news. Anything else on that, Brian? Correspondence, funding, budget, funding?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
CRF, Jennifer.
Thank you, Dan. This is Jennifer Clifford. I'm going to go over the update for the climate resilient farming program. So we don't have any amendments this month, and there have been a few closeouts since last month. Those are going through final approvals. I don't have a nice dashboard to share, just kind of a narrative update. The round 5 contracts are moving forward. There have been many that have been executed, and others are going through that approval process. So that round is underway. And that is
I have to recuse
really
when
all the updates I have.
if I
Understood.
interrupt.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's all I have for round 5. So I was going to do just a quick update for regarding round 6.
Okay, I'm just going to step away then and leave Dave in charge, and Brian will text me as soon as you're done.
Got it, Dale. Thank you. The minutes will reflect that.
Okay, so for round 6, as Brian had mentioned, we did get approval to combine 2 funding years for an $8 million round for round 6. That will be something we'll be developing the RFP and bringing before the TAC this fall. The timeline for development and release of the round 6 RFP was presented to the state committee previously as just in draft form, and now we've received spending approval, so we can move forward with drafting that RFP and tentatively releasing it this December for an early 2022 due date and review process. So that's the tentative timeline for round 6. We may also look at some tool development with some of the funding that we have available. That's something that some tools have been noted in recommendations put forward relating to the climate legislation. So there may be some things that we can get working on to meet those goals under CRF with some of the additional funding that we have outside of the round 6 proposed $8 million round. There will also be some changes that we will make to round 6 RFP relating to some of those goals and recommendations put forward by the Ag and Forestry Advisory Panel relating to the climate legislation. And that's something that we'll bring before the TAC before it's brought to the state committee for approval. And just kind of as a quick recap, to date, we've awarded $12 million under CRF, assisting 200 farms under the 3 tracks of funding from manure storage, cover and flare, water management projects, and soil health projects. That's all I had to update for round 6. More changes to come once we have more to talk about under the RFP. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything.
Jennifer, thank you for that summary and just to remind the group where we're going to be with the timeline. It's going to be a lot of work to bring together the technical advisory committee on the round 6 RFP, and given the amount of work that the Agriculture and Forestry Advisory Panel also put in over the last year, there's a number of recommendations in that body of work that can translate over into CRF. So stay tuned, and certainly be an active fall for us to get ready to launch this RFP. So really looking forward to the continued discussion from this group. Thank you, Jennifer. Just as Jennifer asked, does anybody have any questions or comments on CRF? All right. I will text Dale and let him know he can return to the meeting, and we can move on. Thank you so much. There he is.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer, for that. Move on to Ag Non-Point Source and Bethany.
Great, thank you, Dale. So for a quick program status update, I also do not have a dashboard to display, but we'll share with the committee that since our June meeting, we have closed one additional Ag Non-Point Source contract. That makes for a total of 24 closeouts that have been completed since the beginning of this year. I do have 3 additional closeouts sitting on my desk, currently being reviewed. So at our next meeting, we'll have those to add to our list as well. I do not have any amendments to bring to the committee today for consideration for the Ag Non-Point Source program. An update on round 26. Currently, all of the plans of work that districts needed to develop have been submitted and approved, and all draft contracts have been put together and forwarded to our fiscal management division and subsequently onto our counsel's office for processing. Those contracts have been being sent out to districts as quickly as possible. Currently, 38 of our 45 contracts have been sent to districts for signature. And as of yesterday, 14 of our round 26 contracts have been fully executed. So if you're a district and you've received notification from Maureen that your contract for round 26 is fully executed, you are now eligible to request your initial 25% advance. Round 27 of the Ag Non-Point Source program recently closed, and the due date for proposals to be submitted was June 28th. In response to our request for proposals, we received 103 applications. After completing an internal review for eligibility and completeness, 100 of the applications were determined to be eligible and have been forwarded on to our reviewer panel for scoring. Those 100 proposals requested a total state funding amount of approximately $29.5 million. And as a reminder, for round 27, we have made available $15 million to award to projects. Through the applications, we calculated that applications were submitted on behalf of 174 farms. Of those farms, 35 of them are CAFO operations. 32 farms are applying to implement cover crops for a total of approximately 23,500 acres of cover crops, which is a significant amount. It is not as much as what we received through round 26, which was approximately 41,000 But when looking at, cumulative rounds of the Ag Non-Point Source program, that is still a significant amount of acres to be applied for through our program. 32 farms are applying for covered heavy use areas, and we received applications requesting funds for 53 waste storages, which is less than what we received in round 26. In that round, we received applications for a total of 78 waste storages. So that number went down a little bit. 43 farms are proposing to implement riparian buffer systems. And of those, we got applications for 18.1 acres of forested buffer and 31.1 acres of herbaceous buffer. So last Friday on the 16th, a pre-review meeting was conducted with the reviewing agencies that will be participating in the scoring of the applications. And we conducted a training of the reviewers, and they have all been, given access to the applications and have been given the green light to go ahead and start reviewing and start their scoring process. At that meeting, we set a tentative, due date for scores to be submitted back to me of August 27th, which is a Friday. And we will schedule a post-review meeting to discuss the scores, at that time, and hopefully have a ranked list to bring back to the committee sometime in the early fall. Any questions out there about the Ag Non-Point Source program?
You're muted, Dale.
Attention enough. Not paying attention enough. Normal closeouts, is this a normal amount for this first part of the year? Are we ahead of schedule, you think, or?
I think we're right about on track. Each year we close out somewhere between 40 and 50 contracts. At least that's how it's kind of been shaking out the past few years. Last year in 2020, I think we had a higher amount of closeouts because not as much implementation was going on, so districts were able to focus on getting the contracts closed out.
Okay.
But I think at this stage in the game, we're about halfway through the year. We're right on target.
Good. Anyone else? Questions? Comments?
I just want to thank all the conservation districts for yet another, banner round as far as demand and work done on behalf of farmers across the state. We are still right around that area where we have twice the amount of applications and funding than we have available funding. So, there's certainly, especially in the last year and a half, quite a bit of work still getting done out there. And it's always great to see, how that all comes to fruition with an open round. And when we close that round, 23,000 acres of cover crops, that's still, maybe short of last year's, but, very significant, given that these are under contract for a 3-year period. So just want to say thank you and hats off to conservation districts, whoever's on the line today and listening to this. Fantastic.
I agree. Thank you. Move on to Greg and round 17 AEM.
Very good, Dale. Thank you. Let me share my screen here, pull up some slides. And Dale, just to check that you can see my slide okay?
Yep, good.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so this is just a brief update on AIM-based program round 17, and the big thanks to all the partners on the phone and those that aren't joined right now in helping to refine and shape this second offering of this new approach to AIM-based, which includes, you know, kind of the full breadth of work in the ag conservation context of our mission, both providing technical assistance tracks and also a small cost share implementation funding track. And so in that, and all the moving parts that make that happen, those were approved at the last state committee meeting. And what I'm about to update is based on some feedback from our attorneys at Ag and Markets who continue to review the program and contract policy under that broad approval for the AIM-17 offering by the state committee last month. So this doesn't demand any decisions or motions from the committee today. One small part, it's a small part, but it's an important one. It will not be used in many cases, but it's good to get the language and the process right, is in regard to eligibility, and especially eligible projects that have some association with the district employee or district director. And in the prior draft that we shared with the state committee, it had references that were drawn from New York State Public Officers Law. And our attorneys were at the last state committee meeting. They listened to the discussion, they huddled and reviewed the language that we offered in that prior draft, and are suggesting that we make a change away from, you know, the law that affects state employees essentially, to more general municipal law concepts that guide local ethics policy and district ethics policy, and that, you know, a county attorney would use to help navigate and avoid these conflicts of interest. So the new language that's in the program and contract policy is up on the page, and I've highlighted the specifics in yellow. So a business or family relation to a district employee and the conflict of interest potentially associated with that individual or individuals would be evaluated based on the district or county ethics policy. And certainly in many cases, you know, that would involve some discussion with the county attorney as well. So that's the recommendation our attorneys made, and this is the language that attempts to match that, and realizing that they're still reviewing it. So some words may change here, but the concept of the shift toward basing the determination of these conflicts, potential conflicts of interest, on the local ethics policy will stand. I'll stop there, and that's the extent of my update, and if there's any questions.
Greg, thank you for that, and it's been great to work with Council's office, our contract attorney that is assigned to our division, but also the department's assigned ethics attorney looking at this language. And we're just working, you know, on a final review and timeline with the department for release of this program round. Of course, we're already, you know, at the latter half now of July. I have no idea how that happened, but our intent is to still try to get this out within the next 2 to 4 weeks, you know, if at all possible, so that you have time, so districts have time to turn the annual action plans back around. And just as a reminder, and Greg, I'm sure you could articulate this better than me, but districts will not be required to complete the plans for Tier 4 implementation. There is more time for that. So, you know, hopefully there'll be enough time for districts to complete the annual action plan and for us to move the contracts forward by as close to the contract start date as possible, which is the first of the year, 2022. But there is a little bit additional, there's more time for the development of those Tier 4 projects. Is that correct characterization, Greg?
Yeah, that's correct. We were given some indication from the folks in the department reviewing this that they need a little more time. So I know we've been talking late July, early August, and there was a suggestion that it might reach into mid-August. Stay tuned on that. The construct of AIM 17 will look like the program and contract policy that you're able to view from the June State Committee minutes. And there's just some changes like you see on the screen right now that are being contemplated by folks in the department. So you can sort of think ahead with that, and then once everything is set, we'll announce. You'll have the full materials to operate with, and we'll do a webinar after a week or two of being able to digest it to go through the details of it and discuss.
Thanks, Craig. And just to clarify as well, the more time that Council and Fiscal needs to review this is based on what I talked about before with all of the budget approvals. So it's not just for our division, but department-wide. So we knew that this day would come when everything gets pushed out of the approval process and back to the department. So we're just kind of trying to meter the workload out. But the good thing here is that we've been working on this with our department's Council and Fiscal right along, so it shouldn't be too onerous and nothing new in the review process for the department.
Yep. And Brian, thanks for that. And having said all that, if anybody has questions, please give me a call. Welcome to discuss. Dale, thank you for the time.
Oh, thanks, Greg. I know a lot of work went into the whole thing and getting closer to being done.
That's right.
We move on now. Jennifer and the soil health policy.
Yes, thank you, Dale. I am going to share some slides. We're going to talk about the soil health policy. This is something that the committee has seen before, and now we're looking to provide a final draft for approval. So this is the soil health policy. Just for a little bit of background, this is a policy that we have had before. It's not new. And the state committee supports the principles of soil health and the practice systems that improve soil conservation, carbon sequestration, water infiltration and holding capacity, nutrient cycling, crop yields, and resiliency to the effects of climate change. Through this policy and our program, soil health is defined as the continued capacity of soil to function as a vital living ecosystem that sustains plants, animals, and humans. And this is the same definition that NRCS uses. We do provide cost share assistance for conservation BMP systems through several of the state committee programs. And the state committee, through this policy, continues to emphasize on field level conservation that is cost effective relative to the anticipated environmental benefits. So the soil health management practices are those practices that improve the health and function of soils. The cost share of these practice systems, soil health management practices, is intended to be a near-term conservation benefit on farms, as well as lead to the adoption and long-term use of soil conservation practices as normal farm management beyond the contract period. So the intention is to help lead to long-term adoption of these practices. And this policy outlines payment rates set on a per unit basis to help facilitate that long-term adoption on New York State farms. So per unit rates. This policy applies to AIM-based, Ag Non-Point Source, and CRF programs. Practices have been added to help increase adoption, including soil and manure testing services. So there are 14 practices that we're offering a per unit rate on, as well as 3 tests. Previously, the policy had 8 practices. So we're expanding some of those practices and offering additional services through the 3 tests. The rates are set using a 3-year average of equip rates plus a percentage on top of that that increases the rate to help incentivize the use. We will reevaluate rates annually, and new rates that are released will supersede any previously released rates. But districts will use the rates released with each program's RFP for the entirety of the contract. This will help with consistency through each round of funding. Practices that have a construction and stormwater application were removed from the list, so they weren't tied to the certification requirements of this policy. So those practices are still available at a actual cost. So these are the testing services that I mentioned: soil health testing, basic soil nutrient testing, and manure and compost nutrient testing. And these rates are based on actual cost. This is some additional information that's provided in the policy about these testing services, which ones are recommended, and the services that offer those specific tests, as well as the parameters of each test and the cost. So these are the practices that are included in the set rates, the per unit rates. Most are based on an acre. So deep tillage, conservation cover, conservation crop rotation, residue and tillage management, no-till, contour farming, contour orchard and other perennial crops, contour buffer strips. And then this is the continuation of the list: cover crops, residue and tillage management, reduced tillage, filter strips, pasture and hay planting, strip cropping, herbaceous wind barrier, and soil carbon amendments, which is actually a new standard released by NRCS.
Hey Jennifer, go
Yes.
back one slide if you will. Just wondering if you can explain to the group as well the cover crop 1 acre or less rate and where that originated from.
So for cover crops, we have 3 rates offered: a basic, a multi-species, and 1 acre or less. This 1 acre or less is to allow for smaller farms that they just be working on a much smaller acreage, to also have the ease of using a rate per acre. So it's just a way to cast a broader net on the variety of farms that are out there that we want to offer these rates for.
Thank you, Jennifer. And through the discussions we've had with districts and other stakeholders, it was apparent that the per acre rate doesn't work as well in really small acreage projects. So this is kind of a way to normalize a little bit and still provide for you know, a payment based on those cover crops for 1 acre or less. But you know, again, trying to take into consideration all the feedback that we've received over the years to develop that. Thank you, Jennifer. Any other questions or comments on this rate chart specifically?
There are a couple questions that came in through the chat, specifically asking if the rates include machinery rental or full application by like another entity or a custom cropper. Yeah, both questions that came in are specific to whether or not those rates include, you know, like the rental of equipment.
So the rate that we're providing is based on a 3-year average plus an additional % on top of that to help cover, to make it an all-inclusive cost to cover labor, materials, equipment, anything that would be needed to apply this practice. But we don't have a separate cost specifically to cover equipment. So we were intending this rate to be an all-inclusive cost that should be, you know, helpful for the farmer to cover all of the costs associated with implementing this practice. But no, there isn't anything separate to add to this. Under CRF, we do allow equipment purchases that are related to the practices that you're implementing. So if you're looking for a piece of equipment that your farm needs to utilize for soil health practices, that's something you can apply for a grant for, but that's separate than using these rates. I hope that helps.
Yeah, Jennifer, thank you for that clarification. And we can also elaborate more on all the budget line items and what they would support. But looking at the services lines, contractual, consultant services, engineering, I think that there would also be an area that could support those costs for custom applicators if it's a part of the project. I don't want to get too far ahead. That's not necessarily addressed in the soil health policy, but overall in the RFP for climate resilient farming specifically, but could also be available for other programs. So that would be something that would be stated in the particular RFP for the program, rather than in the soil health policy. Is that fair, Jennifer? Correct me if I'm.
Yeah, that would. No, that's accurate. Just as equipment would be, you know, something that you could apply for in the grant. If custom applicator to implement these practices is something that the farm would require, that's something you could write into the grant as an other direct expense. But that would be outside of using this rate to implement the practice. You know, that would be separate from your SW3 for those districts that can speak the grant talk. But yeah, that's something that we could also dive deeper into in a webinar when the RFP for round 6 and the next round of ag non-point source are released. We can etch out those details. If there are any other questions, you know, please feel free to enter them in the chat, but I'm going to keep going on the changes here to highlight in this policy. So practices that are not listed are still eligible for cost share at actual cost. They would just not be at the per unit rate that is listed here. And there is flexibility within the policy for a district to use a different rate upon justification for each instance. The planning, certification, and closeout process for all of these practices under this policy have been streamlined and clarified in this policy. A flat rate certification section has been added to the procurement record form for using state rates. so districts will understand that when using our procurement forms, there's a separate section for using flat rates. And we have worked with CDA and the TAC to receive feedback on this policy and provide revisions to it. So this is something that we've brought before the state committee before, CDA and TAC. So it's been vetted through our partners, and it's something that, if we see issues, we can revise in the future. But as of right now, I think all of our partners and staff are happy with how this is currently, unless there are any issues brought forward today. And so those are all the changes that we've made and the background of the policy. Be happy to answer any other questions about it.
Any questions, anyone?
I just want to point out as well that we've talked to other states through the U.S. Climate Alliance, and just in our research, and state of Maryland and many others have developed state rates for the various soil health activities. So we're pretty reflective and on par with what other states are doing, and certainly USDA moving into a rate per acre years ago really has established a foundation for us to be able to build a state rate so we can be more consistent across multiple programs and program rounds. So this is something that really will streamline the process, continue to streamline the process, and also just pleased that we're able to offer this in place of itemized costs, farmers having to track every expenditure, districts working to collect all that, coordinate that, and send it in. So this has definitely been a really good change in policy that helps to bring about more adoption. So that's the real point of doing this. And thank you, Jennifer and staff and all who contributed to this document. It will first, if approved today, make appearances in our next rounds of funding, including AIM-based 17, which is right around the corner, CRF 6, and AgNom Point 28.
All right, we need a motion to approve the soil health policy with changes.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. We will go to voting. Scott?
Approve.
Dave?
Approve.
Erica?
Approve.
Darren?
Approved.
Approved. It's approved. Thank you very much, everyone. Anything
Thank you,
else on
everybody.
that, Brian?
I don't think so. Jennifer, anything else?
No, thank you very much. I think that a lot of the feedback we've really received is simplicity and flexibility. And I think that we've built that into this policy. So I appreciate everyone's time today and approval.
Thank you for the work you did. We move on to voting staff and advisory reports, and I'll start with the voting members. Do you have anything, Scott?
NYACD annual meeting will be October 19th through 21st. It'll be face-to-face in Casanova at the Hampton Inn. And there will be no July meeting. The plans will be proctoring the
Marathon?
the Enviroton state winning team next week.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Yeah, Blanche reached out to us on participation at the meeting. I don't see any reason why we couldn't. So, we should be there and provide any information that the group wants to have. And yeah, looking forward to that.
Dave? Heard.
I have nothing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Aaron?
I don't believe I have anything.
Erica?
Nothing on my end.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
Very
One thing I'd
cruising
like
through
to
this
bring
agenda.
up, Brian, as we move forward with the 2050 climate program, we need to have some discussions on maybe ESF come in on reforestation and what that would look like or needed to be look like. So I'd like to have some going forward in meetings in the future, have that brought into us at some point.
Thanks, Dale, for that. No, that's great, and we certainly have had a lot of conversations with the Division of Land and Forest at DEC over the last year, Nature Conservancy and the work that they've done, ESF and others. I think that would be great. We could pull together a presentation for this group to talk about the status of New York forests, reforestation challenges, forest management. I like that idea a lot. We can work on that.
Excellent. Okay, over to you then.
All right. I'm going to go through advisory members, and just feel free to take your phone off mute. And if you have anything to present to the committee, I'm just going to call again because I might have missed a few people in the beginning. So just want to make sure I don't leave anybody out. Anybody on from Ag and Markets and have a report? Okay. How about DEC?
Hey, Brian, this is Sarah. I don't think I have anything.
I don't have anything either, Brian. This is Julie.
All right. Thank you. Dustin, CDEA?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. We've got our next meeting is a week from tomorrow in the Chemung County Soil and Water District office. And will be an announcement going out for that tomorrow. We're also working towards a recruitment and retention committee to try and seek out possible, students from colleges and let them know that district jobs are available out there, and that's a good track to go into if they're interested in what classes they should be taking to do that. And we're looking forward to a partnership meeting, hopefully at the same time. And there's been an announcement sent out about that. I thank you for replying to that today, Brian. And I believe that's it for us. Oh, and fair is coming up, state fair. We're getting ready for that as well, but we're waiting to see exactly what we're going to be able to do and what they're allowing us to do. We're just assuming that everything's going to be as normal, and we'll have our booth and we'll continue as usual.
Great. Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate that. Yeah, just to pause on the recruitment and retention committee for a minute. Something that the four-way partnership has been discussing for quite some time, started before COVID and then picked up again at our June meeting, I think it was, Scott. And, Sam Casella really wants to, push this forward with membership at NYACD, CDA, and state committee. We had a really good discussion back in June about that. And Dustin, thank you, and to the CDA for taking the lead and coordinating this subcommittee. Appreciate it. And for state committee staff, I know we'll talk more about it as well at our next staff meeting. And I'd love to solicit feedback from all of you and for some of you to be engaged in this committee as well. All right, thank you, Dustin. Questions, comments for Dustin? All right, Department of Health. Paul Morgan?
Nothing on our end, Brian.
Okay. Thank you. Department of State. Stephanie, Kate?
This is Stephanie, just that the CFA is still open. It closes on July 30th at 4 p.m. Again, the focus is going to be on implementation, watershed planning, LWRP, implementation, and development of plans as well. So just that is out there. Again, closes on July 30th. And we have 27.75 million this year.
7.75. All right, thank you, Stephanie. All right, Cornell Cooperative Extension, Beth, I think I saw you.
Yeah, I'm here, but nothing to report. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Brian Rahm, Cornell University. Brian Rahm, Cornell, anything to report? Okay. NRCS, Paula Bagley.
Good morning. Not a lot to report, but we are receiving some requests or informational requests for potential USDA assistance with recovery efforts from some of the microbursts that have happened throughout the state in the last couple weeks. So we're basically doing some informational gathering at this point. But that's all I have.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. Okay. I will give a brief report on behalf of Ag and Markets dealing with the Climate Action Council. Just to keep the committee informed on the process, we are currently drafting the scoping plan. So staff leads for the various agencies working with the various panels at this point have got an outline to follow where we're kind of converting and reformatting the information from the panel recommendations and the PowerPoint templates over into more of a narrative form. So we're working with the Division of Land and Forest and the Office of Climate Change on the Ag and Forestry panel. As we kind of broke into subgroups, the leads of those subgroups are responsible for drafting the content for each of those strategies in the Ag and Forestry and other land use chapter. There was a lot of cross-sector pollination between the recommendations that were made. So some of that will kind of be reformatted and merged into other chapters. But that is moving forward. Very ambitious time frame where the first draft is really due at the end of this month. So we'll be meeting with our DEC counterparts at the end of this week to go over what we have so far. And the schedule is for that draft, or not the first draft, but a further draft to be released to the public by the end of this year. So stay tuned. Climate Action Council continues to meet. There is a meeting this Thursday where the Climate Justice Working Group will be reviewing recommendations from, I believe, the Power Gen panel. And then we're going to be talking about what's known as the integration analysis, which is work being done by NYSERDA and consultants that review all of the panel recommendations, and through models and research provides an estimate of what the emission reduction will be based on those models and certain assumptions. So the Climate Action Council will be hearing work from that group on the integration analysis this Thursday. All of the meetings are available via YouTube. Now, after the fact, we are meeting again in person and through WebEx connection. So just wanted to brief the group on that, and that's all I have for my report as well. So at this point, I'll just invite our state committee staff to provide a report to the committee, regional reports, anything of significance that is going on. So I think we have time. I can go down the line here. Victor, do you have anything?
Nothing to report today. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Victor. PJ.
Thank you, Brian. Just a couple quick things, working on some grant closeouts, getting those done, and just some board meetings and a few associated board trainings as well. And also would just like to put out there that if any districts are interested in the New York State Erosion and Sediment Control Program, to please contact Tim or I, and we can get that information out there. And that's all I have to report at this time.
Thank you, PJ. Ryan.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Good morning. I think one thing that's going on across the state that most coordinators are helping with is the reintroduction of the open meeting law. Many districts have been asking for some assistance. So many people got used to doing things remotely at home. We had to kind of revisit all the rules and regs kind of surrounding that. So a lot of boards are back to meeting in person, a few hybrid meetings, such as this one here. But basically get people back in the motion, getting people in the rooms, meeting again, and kind of figuring that stuff out. So that's been one big thing that's going on. Otherwise, a lot of grant closeouts, a lot of big ones that are coming to a close, a lot of field work. It's nice to get back out there and see people, meetings and otherwise. So, and again, I'm available as well to be out there to do board trainings or policy reviews and that kind of thing. So thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. And thank you, Ryan, and the regional staff team for all your assistance with districts as we are now moving back into these in-person meetings and expiration of executive orders. So this transition, I don't believe is as difficult as the transition that, when we moved into the emergency declaration executive orders, but still, thank you for your service to districts and also for helping to set up for this meeting today. Appreciate it. Okay. Ron, do you have anything to add for the group?
Thanks, Brian. Nothing significant for today's meeting.
All right. Thank you, sir. Brendan.
I also have nothing significant for today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Greg.
Thanks, Brian. Same for me. Appreciate the time earlier.
Thank you. Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Now, the only thing I'll report, other than basically the same things going on as the rest of the AEA said, is that I recently completed all the final reports, the review of the final reports for the Part B, and happy to report that 57 out of the 58 districts completed their projects in 2020 as requested and spent all the $6,000. The one district that did not spend all the money, they spent part of it, but due to COVID, they weren't able to complete the full project as proposed. So they'll be returning the unspent funds that will be rolled over into this year's pot of money. But great to hear that during COVID, when they had the $6,000 and the time frame of getting those projects completed within the fiscal year, that 57 of the 58 were able to accomplish that. But that's all I have.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. That's good information. And we'll prepare a little bit more thorough report on state aid projects this fall. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. Appreciate it. You know what? I'm going to go back just to make sure if Scott joined late, if Scott is on the line, if he has anything to report. Scott Fickbaum. Okay. Jennifer, anything more to report?
I will just add that the Hudson Valley Carbon Farming Project is going really well. That was something that was allocated funding under the CRF line item. It got a bit of a delayed start because of the pandemic and everything, all the contracts being backed up, but is now under contract and moving forward, and practices have been implemented. A lot of the practices that are being implemented are related to soil health. We're doing over 1,000 cover crop acres, and residue management, some mulching, some conservation cover, some forage biomass planting, prescribed grazing, riparian buffers, about 3 acres of riparian buffers going in. Also some construction projects to relate to those soil health practices for, compost facility, and some soil health testing going on under that contract. So it's about a year in. It's going to go for another year, and we did have one virtual outreach event about a year ago, excuse me, last November, and we're going to do a 1-year update this November or sometime this fall. Excuse me. And so I'll update the committee and invite everyone to that, but I just wanted to give a brief update on that. That contract is being held by Dutchess County Soil and Water, and the other counties involved are Orange, Sullivan, Columbia, Dutchess, and Ulster. So those are the Hudson Valley districts involved in that project. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. Appreciate that, Jennifer. Bethany, anything to add?
I do, actually. So I wanted to provide the committee with just a really brief update on our source water buffer program. I don't talk about this program all that much, but just as a reminder, we have this program available to soil and water conservation districts to apply on behalf of interested farms, and it provides cost share assistance for the purchase of conservation easements on agricultural land with the ultimate goal of protecting public sources of drinking water. We have rolled out this program as an RFA, or a request for application. So, we accept applications on a rolling basis and are able to fund them on a first come, first served basis. At this point, we do have one active contract through the program that the district is working with their partners to get that project underway. But I wanted to let the committee know that shortly after our meeting in June, we received our second application for the source water buffer program. Right now, it is currently under review, and I'm waiting on some clarifications from the district. But hopefully at our meeting in September, I'll be able to report some additional details on that application.
That is great news and a great update. I appreciate that, Bethany. Questions or comments for Bethany or anyone else? All right, thank you. Am I missing anybody on the staff? Like to give a report? Okay, at this point, are there any conservation districts, district employees, representatives on the line who would like to give a report or address the committee in any way?
Hey, Brian. Corey Humphrey from Suffolk County. Just want to say thanks, everybody, for keeping us all informed. And we're excited to see some of this soil health money come down to Suffolk County. So, Jennifer, we'll probably be talking a lot offline. Thanks.
Thank you, Corey. It's good to hear your voice.
Good to see you too, Brian.
All right. Anyone else? Any other conservation districts online? Okay, any other public comments or any other partner reports to give today? All right, hearing none. Dale, back to you.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everybody, for the updates. We are quite a bit ahead of schedule. I was wondering, we've had quite a bit of rain incidents across the state. Wondering if the districts had any comments. Are you seeing any environmental issues or damage come up because of the heavy rainfall recently? Any districts want to comment on that?
I would say, Dale, that I'm guessing every district has had at least 1 or 2 calls from a town or landowner resulting from the recent rains over the last couple of weeks. I know we have. The towns are starting to take notice of what we can offer, especially when these storms are coming through. And it's, I hate to say it's good for us, but it's good for us from a political standpoint and a funding standpoint to be able to show that districts are a benefit to the towns when things like this happen all of a sudden, and some of the town highway departments are kind of standing there wondering what to do, and they're always looking for another set of eyes on the situation.
Appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. I'm aware of at least one district that was out with governor's office representatives and legislative reps over the last couple of days, looking at floods and storm damage. So yeah, that's definitely going on across the state. And also, Lauren's not on the line today, but I do want to remind everybody that we do have an open RFA for support for emergency stream intervention training, rural roads, active management, conveyance of stormwater through road ditches, and other resources available for districts to provide trainings to municipalities, highway departments, and other stakeholders locally. So Dustin, I know that Upper Hudson and Quickney have got a combined contract doing just that, but he probably could provide more details than I could right now, but just want to remind folks that that's out there.
Yeah, it's definitely a good source to get some funding for doing the trainings, so you can provide them and not have to ask for folks to pay for lunch even when they come to the trainings. That's always a bonus to be able to get folks to show up, is to feed them. Works for district staff as well as highway and other staff.
For sure. We'll drop a link to that RFA in the report here for today. Thank you, Dale, for that question.
Thank you. Anything from anyone else? Next meeting, Brian?
All right, so we usually do take August off. So proposed next meeting would be the third Tuesday in September, which is September 4th. 10 a.m. start, location, remote option to be determined. But talking a little bit with staff about some other presentations. Dale, you brought up a good request today as well, and we'll try to have a longer meeting and a more central or a couple of locations so that folks can travel. We would be able to be on site, or there will also be a WebEx option. I think that we, certainly have come to appreciate the level of participation and engagement with our districts and partners through the WebEx option. Wherever we go, we'll try to maintain that. So we just need a good internet source and we should be fine. But today seemed to work out okay with the remote options and the WebEx, but stay tuned for more details on location. But if anybody's got thoughts, ideas of where we could go throughout the state, or, and that goes with districts too, you know how to reach me. So we got a little bit of time to plan for it. Not a lot of time. It'll be here before we know it, but how does that date work?
14th?
Yep.
That's the second Tuesday.
Is it the second? Why did I do that?
It is.
It does seem kind of early. Okay, so
well, it doesn't. It's if the 14th to work if it works for everybody else.
Yeah, if it works, that work. Let's just try to keep it consistent though. Let's strike that 14th and put the 21st there. Let's go with that date first, just to be consistent for people's schedules. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Think I was
Voting
looking
member,
at the
what do you think?
Works for me.
I'm fine. Yep, okay.
The 21st, right?
21st, yeah, let's strike that 14th.
Yep.
Think about the 21st first.
Dave, Darren, Erica?
Works for me.
I can make it work. It's 2 months away. I have no idea. We started getting busy.
Same way here, I might be in the hospital, but I don't think so.
Okay, we'll shoot for it anyway, Brian.
Yeah.
Okay, 21st.
On the calendar.
It's on the calendar. All right, great.
Anything else from anyone else at all? Yes, districts, anyone? If not, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating today.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. Have a good day.